business is the key. Business written debt is simply different to business written.
Take it on to it.
Yeah. And what we do is we hold a meeting at each of the premises. So we had one, for example, in New Zealand. We've got Superbaby Rhino and looked at what they would do with their environmental stuff and others. And there'll be several different packages. It's very interactive, very hands-on. It's a good group.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, you have one. Sorry. Yep, go ahead.
Greg Hilton Bidwells relates to your point about environmental action clubs. Well, we've not really worked on that, but I just want to share with you a project we've been working on involving a supply chain. The idea of the project is to try and make the supply chain more sustainable. It's a food supply chain having about 100 growers of vegetables, which then are transported to a pack house and then go from that pack house to a supermarket retailer when the household knows. What that's done is, for a start, that is a way in which to engage with SMEs. When I talk about SMEs, I'm looking at the bottom of the scale. This is 1 to 3 people running, I don't know, 1,000 hectare farm growing a couple of thousand tons of potatoes, carrots, whatever. That's a very small enterprise. Together with the packers, which is probably the top end of the SME, then the retailer, part of the biggest company in the world. So I think it will work out with that. Now, what we've identified are real opportunities and challenges in terms of SMEs. The real challenge is the diffuse nature of their environmental impact. Those 100 growers collectively have an enormous impact on the carbon emissions of that supply chain. They're in fact the largest proportion of the impact on that supply chain. Unfortunately, you divide that by 100, each one is producing maybe 3 tons of waste wood every year, a few tons of waste oil, a few hundred litres of waste oil a year. How do you consolidate that all together, and how do you actually start making a difference? What we've been doing is looking at renewable energy applications where they can fit in, and I'm not sort of embarrassed to say they fit in predominantly at the packing sites where they'll use an enormous amount of electricity for process. They'll generate a lot of waste which you can then use for energy or other purposes. But the real challenge that we've identified there has been engaging with the SMEs, getting them interested, because we might be able to save them a little bit on their energy bills, but collectively they're making a big impact on the environment and CO2 emissions. But it's how to re-engage with them in the current legislatory framework and regulations, how to engage with them and really make a difference. That's sort of the next stage. But as a supply chain, it's a fantastic way of engaging with those SMEs.
I mean, the risk of being competitive, following my question earlier today, most of the European countries, well, that agriculture works a heck of a lot better to put together. And in Denmark, they have agricultural energy cooperatives, lots and lots of them, and they all produce energy from farm waste, and they make money out of it. We don't do that. Bizarre, isn't it? It's just right over the water, and we're not doing it.
It's a challenge though when you have potato growers from Herefordshire to Lowestoft and to Aberdeen.
That's true.
It's trying to put them all together. But supply chain approach is one way, and cooperative approach.
Any other comments on?
I'd just add to that when there's some strikingly obvious measures that we could take to improve resource efficiency if we really wanted to. The problem is that there's a lack of infrastructure on the ground in the UK. Okay, if you live in somewhere like London, it's quite easy if you're after an environmental solution. But if you're since you sort of steady in 25, then it becomes increasingly difficult to find a good solution locally. I mean, one of the biggest issues I find in London, for instance, is that the micro businesses like your small youth agent or your cow shop who generate small quantities of waste, but not enough to make it commercially viable to recycle. And yet, there's no facility for them to dispose of those waste streams effectively. Do any now, I know lack of starting to fund pilots in this area, but there's huge amounts of savings that potentially quite in front of us, but not really taking action.
John?
Yes, we get this complaint all the time from our members, and one of the things we've been pushing so far without success is that the civic community sites run by the local authorities are doing more and more recycling for the domestic user, and small businesses are very similar in their waste stream to your domestic households. Therefore, it's not beyond the wit of government if they have the will to request for the Joel or whatever they have to do to get local authorities to open up civic community sites to small businesses to get round this problem that the volumes of waste are not of interest to the normal process.
Don't get it started on the mess that is waste policy. Right, I think we've got time for one more intervention. Yeah.
Good evening. Audrey Montgomery, Glanbia Ingredients, Ireland. I would be interested in Hannah's view with regard to defining the scope of the carbon footprint. There's been a lot of talk about what companies' carbon footprints are, but when you actually start looking into different CSRs for different companies, for example, Diageo in Ireland come out with their carbon footprint, and that is made up of their processing emissions and their business travel. Whereas the example of Goose this morning, they've looked at 2 products, and it has taken 3 consultants 9 months looking at those 2 products, and they've gone right back to the grower of the ingredients of their product. So there's been, I suppose, some talk about carbon footprinting, but there's no standardised definition of the scope of the carbon footprint. And I know that my own company, we're looking at carbon footprinting at the moment, but we don't want necessarily to do ourselves a disservice and going right back to the very beginning of getting our raw material, which is milk, and dealing with each farmer with regard to the fertiliser and food types that we use, where competitors in Europe might just simply look at their processing emissions.
Right, it's a good question. So we've got an example you gave with food, and we've got Gail's comment that some people are going with their meters and everything in between. I mean, what we do is we say start with what you know and build out, and never mind what the definition is, because every piece that you know of is a piece that's really, really valuable. So, you know what your electricity bill is and your gas bill is, that's great. We often ask for 3 things. The third is business travel, and travel to work by your staff. And that's a stumper. You rarely get anybody who can answer that one. Going on to do what you're talking about, higher up the supply chain, it would be a huge challenge for small companies. I think it'd be nice to start with those 3. Sure.
I think it is a massively complex debate. I think the easiest definition is look at what you can control and what you can influence. And if you make that distinction, well, we can control these things, or we can influence these things, and actually do an initial carbon footprint and the former, and say, well, we can definitely control that, so we definitely can make changes, and then start to look at the broader influencing areas and how the policy can extend out to the wider stakeholders. That seems to me the definition some of the businesses that we're working with feel relaxed with and feel that there's actually a manageable way of dealing with the complex process.
Anybody else? Should be on carbon footprinting?
As Corinne said, I mean, there's all sorts of methodologies out there that people are using, like you said, to self-ready. And I mean, I would be very, very cautious as a consumer, really, receiving it, because and it's the same kind of thing with carbon offsetting, really. And a lot of companies claim to be carbon neutral or offsetting, and it's very dodgy territory. So